golden grass, beyond which is a small mud home with a stone wall around it. The grass rustles as a man, Joseph, appears. Framed by an interior threshold, Joseph readies a donkey. A woman, Mary, walks by, pauses at the door frame, and watches Joseph. As he equips the donkey, he takes a break, looks to the side, and inhales with a slight shake of his head. He glances behind him to Mary, who is pregnant, standing in the doorway. She looks down, then straight to him as her stray hair blows in the breeze. He offers a smile as his eyebrows purse together. She smiles back, lowers her gaze, then rests her head on the wooden door frame. People dressed in long tunics, head coverings, and sandals lead packed donkeys away on the dirt road. Mary and Joseph walk together with their loaded donkey among dry brush terrain. Text: The Christ Child. The two walk and talk as their surroundings become bathed in golden light and the donkey occasionally grabs nibbles of grass. Others walk behind them. In the evening, the crowd gathers around a fire on the stony ground. Joseph takes off his headscarf and offers it to Mary, who uses it to cover her legs. To their right, a child sleeps on his mother's lap. Mary's hands guide Joseph's to her pregnant stomach. She smiles. Joseph smiles, then his expression falls. Mary turns and lays against his chest as he wraps his arms around her. Her head rests against his cheek as they watch the flames. Next day, the caravan is walking again. Mary rides the donkey and Joseph walks beside them, leading the animal. People walk on a dirt path past short stone walls and through a stone arch. One girl carries a roll of fabric and a man uses a staff. Some distance behind them, Joseph, Mary, and the donkey walk. Mary's eyes hang low and her expression is still. Joseph checks on her. She beams at him as her expression lifts. In the city, Mary pants walking through a dark passage. She stops and steadies herself on the wall as she enters the light. Joseph comes near to her and she nods. They walk on, away from the arch. Mary cradles her stomach. They draw no attention as people walk around them. In the evening, they walk up to a building. A fire casts warm light on the porch. A man walks with his arms out to the couple. A woman comes out from inside the building and embraces Mary. Inside, Joseph and Mary look around a dimly lit room. She lowers her headscarf. People talk and embrace in the crowded room. Mary looks bewildered. Scarf lowered, Mary is approached by another lady, who leads her to sit down by the fire. The lady offers Mary a wooden bowl of grapes, cheese, and bread and a drink. Joseph climbs a ladder in the crowded room, and stops at the top without stepping off. In torchlight, he sees men eating and drinking at tables while women scamper around. He climbs back down the ladder. Joseph shakes his head, sighs, and shrugs. He glances to his left. Mary sits by the fire looking at him. He goes to her and sits down. He places his hand on her leg and offers her drink to her. She shakes her head and lowers her chin. He places the cup down. Her face widens and she snatches for Joseph's wrist. Her breathing is heavy. She looks to him. She looks away and down. He blinks, takes a few breaths, and lifts his arm to wave for someone. A woman comes and crouches in front of them. Mary grimaces. The helper gets up. Joseph comforts Mary, who shakes her head as her face contorts and her breathing increases. She nods. Joseph grasps her hand and helps her stand. Mary leans on Joseph as they are led through the room by the helper. Firelight bounces off them as they walk by people. Embraced by Joseph in the stable, Mary stops and leans forward to the ground. She rolls herself over and sits, grimacing. Joseph helps her lay back. Her face glistens with sweat as she tightens her neck, purses her lips, and tightly closes her eyes. Joseph shakes his head. She pants. Her eyes open and close. Her gaze falls on Joseph. Her breathing slows, her eyebrows raise, and her face relaxes. Her hands clutch Joseph's. He stares at her. She smiles and grimaces at him as her breathing increases. She throws her head forward as her body tightens. The helper enters the room. Through a tattered cloth door covering, the helper readies white linens as Joseph leans over Mary. A night sky with 2 clouds. One star shines brighter than the others. A baby is passed from the helper to Mary. Mary's hair is disheveled, and her gaze never leaves the baby as she embraces him. Mary's face glistens with sweat and she smiles. Her fingers caress the baby's hands as he cries. She gently bounces the baby in her arms. She looks up, face quivering, at Joseph, then back to the baby with a smile. Joseph blinks repeatedly as his open mouth forms a smile. Mary gazes at the baby as she rocks him. The baby is on the ground being tenderly swaddled in white linen by Mary. She gently scoops him into her arms, stopping to gaze at his face. In her arms, the child is calm. He grasps her shirt as she rocks him. Joseph places his hand on the baby's head, who is being held by its mother. Mary gently clutches the baby's arm. The baby's soft features. He is being rocked and his eyes become heavy. Mary rocks and sings to the baby. Joseph admires while he leans on an empty stone manger. In warm light, Mary continues to sing and rock the baby. Joseph breaks his gaze and begins to rustle a layer of straw in the manger. He covers the straw with a piece of white linen. Continuing to rock, Mary looks up to Joseph, lowers her gaze, then looks back to Joseph and smiles. Finishing the manger, Joseph looks Mary. She gently lowers the quiet baby into the soft manger. As the baby settles, Mary and Joseph admire him. The moon shines through dark clouds. In a pasture, sheep behind a wooden fence. They are lit by warm firelight. People sit around a fire in the grass and share a small amount of food. One young person is asleep. An older boy quickly turns his head and furrows his brow. He blinks a few times before standing. An older man also stands. The boy nods as another stands. A bright blue and then white light floods their faces. They gaze upward at it. Other people are engulfed by the light. They look to one another and then to the light. The sheep are unbothered. People's faces stare, astounded. They begin walking toward the source of the light. One of the shepherds smiles. The light drowns the astounded crowd in white. A dark, cloudy night sky. The moon shines above the crowd, now only lit by firelight. They quickly talk to one another. The young boy turns his head to another shepherd, whose eyes are bright and mouth is open. They breathe heavy as their lips form a smile. On the porch of a building, a woman walks a bucket towards a fire. An older man from the sheep field approaches and bows. More people walk up behind him. In the stable, the swaddled baby sleeps in a manger. Mary rests her arm on the stone of the manger and watches him. She looks up as a line of people enter. She quickly pulls up her head covering and looks back to Joseph. The older man leads the group towards Joseph and Mary. He kneels. Joseph comes to Mary's side. The young boy from the sheep field kneels beside the old man. The baby's mother nods. Mary pulls back on the cloth around the baby's head. People watch and smile. The mother smiles. The old man nods. Mary's gaze lowers and her mouth opens slightly. The people beam at the sleeping baby. A clear night sky. One star shines brighter than the rest. In another land, a large, sturdy stone structure. Torches light people moving in and out of a building. A bald man outside takes a drink from a stemless metal goblet. A crowd is seen inside through a doorway behind him. At a stone wall, he stares up and around. He notices something above him. A bright star in the sky. He gulps. He steps back. He takes big breaths and swallows while not taking his eyes off the sky. He lowers his gaze, looks right, takes a deep breath, and looks up again. Backing up, he turns to rush into the open and crowded building. At the stable, daylight shines through a round window in a mud wall. The baby rustles in the manger as someone in the room oversweeps. Joseph comes to the baby and scoops him up. Holding the child, Joseph beams at him and begins to rock. Joseph looks to his right, holds the baby closer, and moves to sit down next to Mary. She looks over Joseph's shoulder and grins at the baby, then looks to Joseph. He nods. She rubs her hand on the bottom of the baby's swaddle as Joseph pulls the baby closer and kisses its head. He looks at her and then her to him. They both return their gaze to the baby. In a field, a camel's foot in amber grass. Camel legs walk. Blue mountains against an orange sky. The bald man from the night leads a packed camel. A line of other people lead more camels. They walk against a blue and orange clouded sky. The sun shines from the top of the mountain range. The man is bald. In dim light, he places a string attached to a painted square piece in his mouth, holds up the square, and squints. The bright star shines above a distant city. The bald man lowers his tool and inhales. He turns to a companion who nods. They embrace. The bright star glimmers in the evening sky. Joseph carries a round wooden beam through a stone street. He passes a group of 4 men in clean tunics. The men hold large spears. Joseph and the men share a glance, then Joseph continues to walk. Past a camel, Joseph notices 2 more men with spears. He blinks and sets down the beam. Men hold spears behind him. A man in the street talks with the bald man and his companions. He motions towards Joseph. The bald man approaches Joseph and lowers his hood. He bows his head. With eyebrows raised, Joseph looks behind himself, then back to the man. Joseph walks through a wooden door. Joseph motions towards the men. Mary stands and pulls on her head scarf. Joseph stands by Mary. The bald man bows. Mary gently bows. She glances to her right and the bald man directs his gaze that way. A little boy, young Jesus, looks from behind a stone pillar. The bald man turns back to Mary and Joseph. Mary nods. The bald man and his companions turn. The man kneels in front of the little boy who is bathed in sunlight from the window. Grinning, the man lowers himself below Jesus. His face scrunches and he bows. His companions also bow. One bowing man in the back holds a chest. The bald man raises himself. Blinking, he smiles. He tilts his head with soft eyes. People begin to pull things from a chest. They are passed to the bald man who presents them to Jesus. Mary kneels next to him and places her arms around him. Her and the boy look at the gifts. A leather bag with myrrh. A wooden box with frankincense. A wooden box with gold jewelry. The bald man begins to weep. He looks to a companion who places a hand on his shoulder. The bald man buries his face in his left hand. He looks up to Jesus, lowers his hand, and tilts his head. Joseph watches. Mary joins him. He places his arm around her and she rests her head on his chest. Young Jesus looks up and smiles, then looks back down. Mary and Joseph smile. The crowd continues to present gifts. Jesus takes one from the bald man and kneels down. The empty stone manger from the stable. Straw is scattered about it. Text, Jesus of Nazareth. One about doing good. Acts 10:38. This Christmas season, so can you. Light the world one by one. Lighttheworld.org. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Copyright by Intellectual Reserve Incorporated. All rights reserved.